our friends, colleagues, and fellow truth seekers. It is finished. After months of research, forensic auditing, and deep philosophical inquiry, I have finalized the master blueprint for my first 2026 journal article. We live in a world where truth is becoming a luxury item. We see it globally in the collapse of economies like Venezuela, and we feel it locally in the Philippines where fake lawyers in Tarlac and fixers in our courts exploit people with low incomes because our systems rely on paper instead of proof. My research proposes a cure. It connects the dots between the hush strategies of global superpowers and the need for a zero-trust authority audit in our local municipalities. This work is dedicated to the Mnemosine Archive and Ledger, the Mnemosine, Dispatch, and the mentors, pundits, and field contributors. The idea that memory is sacred and that authentic leadership is not about shouting power, but about avuncular stewardship, protecting the family. To the giants who came before us and the generations we must protect, we do not forget. The Wemen Protocol, a human-first architecture for memory, leadership, and global stewardship. From the Hush DoW to the Philippine Judiciary, Protocols for Institutional Resuscitation in an Age of Narrative Entropy. Author, Austin E. Delacruz, Jr. Abstract. The 21st century governance landscape is defined by institutional cardiac arrest, a systemic cessation of the vital flows of truth, justice, and accountability. This pathology is not limited to failed states or collapsing corporations. It has metastasized into the judicial and executive arteries of established democracies. This dissertation proposes the Wemen Protocol, wisdom, empathy, memory, equity, navigation, as a rigid, cognitive technical architecture for the remediation of these failed macro-organizational entities. Anchored in the avuncular stewardship archetype, the research operationalizes memory through the Mnemosine Archive and Ledger, MAL. It conducts a forensic comparative analysis of systemic failure across three distinct theaters. 1. The geopolitical theater, Venezuela's Node 47 stabilization and Hades. Necropolitics. 2. The corporate agency theater, FTX's ledger corruption and the US VA's brain drain. And 3. The judicial theater, the Philippine Judiciary and BARM. Specifically, this work introduces new forensic evidence regarding the rot from within of the Philippine legal system, analyzing the Tarlac fake lawyer Sapad case, the Laguna court clerk Sanchez fixing scandal, and the BARM First Lady Authority simulation. It argues that the Philippine judiciary is currently in clinical shock, requiring an intervention analogous to the Node 47 stabilization of Venezuela, a transition from opaque, personality-based authority to a zero-trust authority audit secured by cryptographic chains of command. Keywords: Wemen Protocol, avuncular stewardship, Mnemosine Archive, hushed DoW, Node 47, Philippine Judiciary, BARM, Authority Audit, Institutional Resuscitation. Table of Contents and Chapter Summaries. Part 1. The Pathology and the Protocol. Chapter 1. Introduction. The Anatomy of Institutional Cardiac Arrest. 1.1. The Epistemological Crisis, Defining the Collapse of Shared Reality. How Disinformation and Memory Holes Cause Institutions to Stroke Out. 1.2. The Clinical Metaphor, Mapping Organizational Failure to Physiological Shock, Hypovolemic, Cardiogenic, Neurogenic. Defining Institutional Resuscitation. 1.3. The Wemen Protocol, Defining the 5 Vital Signs of a Living Institution, Wisdom, Empathy, Memory, Equity, and Navigation. The Hush DoW Paradigm, Introducing the Shift from Kinetic War, Noise, to Strategic Silence, Signal, as the Prerequisite for Resuscitation. Chapter 2. Theoretical Framework, Stewardship versus Agency. 2.1 Stewardship Theory, Why Agency Theory Distrust Monitoring Fails in High-Trust Networks. The Need for the Avuncular Steward, the Uncle Who Protects but Does Not Own. 2.2 The Biology of Leadership, Emotional Aperture and Contagion. How a Leader's Nervous System Regulates the Body Politic. 2.3 The Mnemosine Mandate, the Moral Obligation to Preserve the Ledger of Truth Against Memoricide. Chapter 3 The Mnemosine Architecture, Technical Specifications. 3.1 The archive, OAs, ingest, archival storage, and access. How do we prevent data rot? 3.2 The ledger, blockchain, DLT, the immutable chain. Why proof of authority is superior to proof of work for governance. 3.3 The dispatch, schema.org, the semantic web layer. How to tag truth so machines can recognize it. Part 2 Global and Corporate Case Studies. Chapter 4 Venezuela and the Node 47 Intervention. The patient, Venezuela, is a case of neurogenic shock, loss of central control signal. The intervention, how the U.S. Node 47 administration applied the hushed DoW, ignoring the noise of the regime and securing the assets, oil gold, via the ledger. The result: stabilization without invasion. The victory of stewardship over conquest. Chapter 5 Haiti and the necropolitics of memory. 5.1 The patient, Haiti, is a case of traumatic amputation. The 2010 destruction of the archives. 5.2 The pathology, memoricide. Without records, citizens are ghosts. Aid evaporates because there is no ledger to catch it. 5.3 The cure, the digital twin state. Rebuilding the nation on the Mnemosine archive before rebuilding it on the ground. Chapter 6 FTX and the anti-steward. A patient, FTX is multi-organ failure caused by sepsis, corruption. 6.2 The pathology, paperless bankruptcy. The deliberate refusal to keep a ledger. Sam Bankman-Fried is the anti-steward. 6.3 The cure, radical transparency. Don't trust, verify. Chapter 7 The US VA and the brain drain. 7.1 The patient, the VA is hypoxic failure, lack of oxygen, wisdom. S7.2 The pathology, the departure of the giants. The loss of tacit knowledge, phronesis, leaves only rigid bureaucracy, techne. The cure, intergenerational ingest. Using AI, Gemini 3, to harvest wisdom before it retires. Part 3 The Philippine Theater, new forensic analysis. Chapter 8 The Philippine Judiciary, a critical care assessment. 8.1 The diagnosis: the Philippine justice system is not dying, it is in active seizure. It suffers from systemic identity dysphoria. It cannot distinguish between genuine law enforcement agents and imposters. 8.2 The Tita Aunt Syndrome, cultural nepotism weaponized. How the Padrino system created the vulnerabilities scammers exploit. 8.3 The Wemen Gap, a total failure of memory verification and equity, access to justice. Chapter 9 The Rot from Within, Tarlac and Laguna. 9.1 Case A The Tarlac Imposter, Jenny McCannis Sapad. Forensics, used aliases, Sheila Castillo, forged judge, clerk signatures, and collected 5 million Philippine pesos. Failure: no biometric or cryptographic method existed to verify her status as a lawyer. 9.2 Case B The Insider Threat, Gerald Eric F. Sanchez. Forensics, court clerk in Laguna soliciting 100,000 Philippine pesos for favorable resolutions. Analysis: this is the autoimmune disorder. The white blood cells, court staff, are attacking the body. 9.3 Synthesis: these are not isolated crimes, they are symptoms of a system that relies on paper and trust in a zero-trust world. Chapter 10 The BARM Simulation, Authority as a Commodity. 10.1 The Scam, selling BARM parliament seats using the First Lady's name. 10.2 The Mechanism, Authority Simulation. The scammers hacked the narrative gap in the BARM transition. 10.3 The First Lady Vulnerability, how symbolic proximity to power. Malacanang is monetized because there is no immutable ledger of appointments. 10.4 Connection to Node 47, just as Venezuela needed an external audit of authority, BARM requires an authority audit to distinguish real appointees from fakes. Part 4 The Remediation and Synthesis. Chapter 11 The Authority Audit, a Zero-Trust Proposal. A concept: moving executive appointments from paper decrees to cryptographic tokens. ELF. TWI, the chain of command. Root authority, the president. Appointing power, private key. Downstream, department head. Regional director, appointee. 11.3, application to PhBARM. If the authority audit existed, the SAPAD and BARM scams would be mathematically impossible. A simple QR scan would reveal invalid token. 11.4. Wemen alignment. This satisfies memory, immutable record. And equity, preventing exploitation of people with low incomes. Chapter 12, Global Synthesis, the Mnemosine Mandate. 12.1, connecting the dots, whether it's Node 47 in Caracas or a fake lawyer in Tarlac, the enemy is the same, entropy of truth. The role of the hush DoW. Institutional resuscitation requires silence. You cannot fix a heart while running a marathon. The Philippines needs a hush judiciary, a period of intense, quiet internal auditing and digitization. 12.3, the Gemini 3 factor, acknowledging the role of advanced AI as the forensic lens that allows us to see these patterns. Chapter 13, conclusion, closing the human gap. 13.1, the final prognosis. Can these systems be saved? Yes, but only through radical transparency. The call to stewardship, the transition from power to custody. 13.3, the Mnemosine Oath. We are the keepers of the ledger. We do not forget. Thank you. Coming up, Part 1, the pathology and the protocol. Chapter 1, Introduction, the anatomy of institutional cardiac arrest.